I'm making sunshine for the journey. I'm making sunshine for the journey. I'm making sunshine for the journey. And I am making it right now. Hey, everybody. Today we have another Sunshine for the Journey episode just for parents. So far, the Ready, Set, Go show has 21 episodes which have been created just for young kids and the big people in their life. They are filled with stories, songs, interviews, and ideas for activities. But I also thought it would be fun for adult listeners to hear from parents who have perspective on the early years with their own children. So I'm going to keep making episodes for kids, but we'll also have Making Sunshine for the Journey episodes just for parents and others who take care of kids. We all know it's easy to get stressed out by situations close to home, sometimes even in our own home, and also out in the world. So this is a space for us to reflect on what went right despite everything. Today we have Monique on the show. Hey, Monique.
Hi, Miss Katie.
So what did your son love to do when he was young?
My son really was into dress up and stories. So we did a lot of costumes and making things like pie pans for like a sword or a shield or something and played around with those kind of things. He loved to read books and then he'd like to act out the stories. He loved that.
That sounds really fun.
It was fun.
So what are some things you loved to do together when he was little?
We did a lot of dress up together and then we acted out stories. I don't know, maybe the theater person in me found that to be really, really fun, and creating stories together, like telling each other big, tall tales while we were playing or shopping or doing whatever the chores were of the day. We used to spend a lot of time reading books and playing with the little train sets, putting those together and making them huge train tracks all over the house. So that was fun. Mm-hmm. Nerf gun wars in the house.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Really cool. So I feel like there is a real thread from his early years of storytelling to some things that he's still interested at this point in his life.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain how that has grown and developed?
Even when he was really, really small, 1 year old at his daycare, they had a lot of stories that were on record/tape, and the kids could flip. Remember the little bell and turn the page of the bell? And he had a lot of those. And he would just read books from beginning to end, like listen to it and turn the page when he was supposed to turn the page. And so he's just always loved those kind of stories. And then when he got interested in something, he got immersed in research books. Like he wanted those kind of books instead of like a story about it, like, a fiction book. He wanted some sort of research book, nonfiction book. I think that all of that together has taught him a lot about who people are, character development, all of that. And so now he's really into RPGs, tabletop role-playing games. He leads a D&D group, as you know. Mm-hmm. And I think that all of that comes natural to him as storytelling. And he's always been a really good writer. He wrote one in 5th grade or something that I was actually thinking to myself, I can't wait to find out how this ends. And for a 5th grader to do that, it wasn't clear to me where he was going to go with this. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, this is pretty good. So I think that that's a large portion of, like, as a kid, what we developed by reading together, even when we watch movies together, talking about characters and the plot. And he never sat still while watching a movie. He just would act it out and would find a costume for it. He loved to watch How to Train Your Dragon. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, we must have watched that a million times. And he could act out the entire movie like while he was watching it. So I think all of that has really sort of developed him to be like, now he's this DM for this D&D group. He's starting to write some of his own scenarios. And then I think it helps a lot with his debate and some of the other stuff he does at school. So
That's really interesting to think about the seeds of those activities he really cares a lot about now, starting at such a young age. So tell me, what did you like to do when you were young?
When I was young, we didn't have I'm old. We didn't have a lot of toys. So I spent a lot of time outside and probably just making up games. We had a little house in the back that we could play house in, and we had all our little cooking stuff out there. And then I think we just made up a lot of stories. Like we did the same thing that I probably did with my son, is just make up stuff. And be creative, and we didn't depend on a whole lot of toys or machines or things like that. We just kind of ran around and played, rode bikes. Mm-hmm. The world was our adventure place, Mm-hmm. I remember there was a little creek, and we used to pretend it was like this big stream, and everybody in the neighborhood, we'd pretend to fish in it. It was probably a ditch. Now that I think about it, I don't think it was really anything that big, but we used to always meet me at the stream, and ride your bike, and all the neighborhood kids would get together. My son didn't really have any neighborhood kids to hang out with because everybody in our neighborhood's really much older. Mm-hmm. So I think I ended up being that kid for him, which is fine for me. I like to play.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you love hosting Halloween parties and that you did that quite a few years. Can you tell us what they were like?
Yes, we loved the Halloween parties. I think it just started out that we spent so much energy on costumes, and we were thinking like, they only wear them one night, like their Halloween costume was a big ordeal. So I decided to start hosting a party where the kids could wear their costume before Halloween, and then we'd always do it like a weekend before. Then they could wear their costume more than once. So I brought an invitation, which you took a picture of. So that always kind of started out the theme of the party for the year. So my really good friend and neighbor, who always was a co-host for these parties, it would kind of start out with whatever stamp or cricket shape she had gotten for the year for Halloween. Or if we found really fun Halloween paper, that kind of determined what the theme was that year. And so we did like spiders one year, we did pumpkins one year, we did skeletons in another year, we did ghost one year, and then we just decorated the whole house and whatever the theme was. And so the big place was always the front porch. We would do hay bales and pumpkins and whatever the theme was, and a backdrop so parents could get pictures of their kids in their costumes for the year. We'd have hay bales stacked, and everybody got a picture of their kids in their costume that year, and family pictures too. It was kind of fun. And then we had things hanging from the ceiling all the time, and stuff that would just make kids be astonished by like what was happening. So when they were really little, it was really easy to do. As they got older, it was a little harder. But most of the time, it was just something that they got super excited about. And then we'd have potluck because everybody wanted to do the latest recipe they had seen on Pinterest for Halloween. Everybody wanted to try something, but nobody ever wanted to do all the food. So we ended up making it a potluck thing so everybody could try out their favorite Halloween recipe. And that worked out perfect for me. So my co-host and I always did the chilies, and she did a regular chili with ground beef. We called it the devil chili. And then we had the ghost chili when it was a white bean and chicken. So we always had those two, and then things went from there. And we always had a candy bar, which I still always have at my house. And then we had in the backyard and throughout the house, we would set up games like little beanbag toss or ghost dart game where you threw the little Velcro thing at a ghost. They were really simple little games for little kids. We always had this 4x4 post that we laid on the ground and then did something underneath it, like cobwebs and spiders, and the kids had to balance to get across the little thing. And then at each one of those games, we set out a bucket of candy or some sort of non-candy item, like a little puzzle or, something Halloweenish, like whistles, things like that. So we'd mix it all up, and everybody would probably donate some candy or something for the year, whatever. We'd put them in these buckets, and the kids would just go from like game to game and play. And then when they were done, they would pick one item out of the bucket, I always thought that was so sweet that they were never grabbing handfuls. I was always like, we had so much of it. I had a bucket load every year of, we'd take out all the candy, and then we'd all the stuff that could last till the next year we'd keep. So we always had a ton. As they got older, they'd pick out one or two, but when they were really little, they'd only pick out one. I always thought that was so funny. They were so honest. They were
probably so impressed with all the buckets of things.
We did. We probably had 10 or 12 games. And it was simple things that I just kind of collected over the year. Or a beanbag toss, we used those plastic pumpkins, and then we just put something that they could toss into them. And if they could get one in, they could pick a prize, And they kind of figured out how to play the games, or somebody would show them, like my son would show them how to play them. And then the older kids who had been there like the year before or something, kind of took care of the little kids too and helped them out. So it was fun though. And it was just kids running around in costumes like mad people through the house, hopped up on sugar.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Seriously. So if you could think of one or two things that are really easy, fun things to do for Halloween, like say you're going to have a party for the first time, or maybe you just want to make it fun for your own family. Can you think of a couple things that don't cost much money and they're really easy to pull off?
Dollar Tree.
Okay.
It's amazing. They have some really fun stuff, and it's only going to last the year anyway. So if it breaks, it's not like you've spent a lot of money on it. But we got a lot of the little things to help decorate with, or like the pumpkin buckets for games and things. We could get those for $1. That was sort of cheap. So Dollar Tree was really good. And if you go right when the season starts, their selection's really good. So we definitely did Dollar Tree. And then we just like having everybody participate. Like at first I thought I needed to host all of it, but everybody really wanted to be a part of it because, it's fun to do the seasonal stuff. And so if somebody's doing all of it, then you don't really get to do it. So by letting everybody do a potluck and everybody bringing stuff, they could come up with a new game. Somebody found something on Pinterest and they thought, this will be so much fun for the Halloween party. So even though there were two of us that hosted it, it was almost like it was everybody's party. So,
well, I remember a couple things that we brought that were healthy treats. So I was going to share that because I know there's so many cute things on Pinterest and so many sweet treats, of course, at Halloween. But the two things I remember loving doing a few different years, and I know I brought them to that party. One was called Ogre Eyes, where you just put a bunch of green grapes in a bowl. And I thought that was funny just because of the name. And the other was to use those little bitty clementine oranges and then draw a face on them with a Sharpie and make them into jack-o'-lanterns.
Little jack-o'-lanterns.
So adding a little bit of healthy in the midst of all the sugar.
We always had chicken salad sandwiches and we cut them in the shape of a skull head. So we had stuff like that. And then a friend of ours from Japan used to bring this, we called it Japanese fried chicken. And I know the name for it, but I won't be able to pronounce it. But my son has just learned how to make that recipe. But she made it every year and it's kind of a complicated recipe. But that chicken,
too good.
Oh my gosh. Like it went away so fast. She'd set the platter down on the table when she got there. And then you'd see this little stream of kids run by the table and you'd just see hands above the table, and then the plate would be gone. It was like Little Pariah or something. They were
so funny.
It was crazy.
I know, it's really good.
And it's this thing that when, like they all knew, the chicken's here.
Oh, that's so cute.
So there was some healthy stuff. There was a lot of candy though. I'm not going to lie.
So what other advice do you have for parents with young kids, Halloween or otherwise?
I was thinking about this and I thought, I think the biggest thing is play for the surprise and wonder of kids. I think that's why I could do this party every year, is to watch the unbridled happiness in a kid. And it really wasn't about spending a lot of money. It was about being with other kids, playing, running through the house, which some people can't handle. And that's okay. I mean, if you can't, then that's okay. But watching kids being at their most hyper free self is so much fun for me to watch, but it also creates memories for them too. So having something like that, like something that they do every year, a pumpkin patch, or, they trick or treat together. We're so fortunate in Oklahoma City because there's some really good trick or treating neighborhoods that just make it really fun. There's so many people out there. And I thought that's always been a great part of living in this city, is that Halloween is treated really well here.
Yeah, it is.
But also Christmas too, just going and seeing the lights. Anything that you can do as a tradition, I think that kids look forward to every year is always fun. And then I just think really creating a wonder. So I kind of always went out with really childish decorations that were fun for kids. My house still looks like a 5-year-old lives there, but I still do that now. I think the kids all gather for a D&D session and I feel the same way. Like I feel like I have to let's make this as fun as possible and put as much candy out as possible.
Yeah, that's so great. They have created an amazing community. You're the reason for getting that going, which is great.
I think
foresight.
having one kid has something to do with that because I only had one shot at this. I feel like if I had more, maybe I probably wouldn't have gone out as much and done as much, but I knew I had one shot at it. And I was older, a much older parent. So I think that was a little bit easier for me. But then also there were so many people I hung out with that were so into fun too. So that kind of made it easy also. Like they were like, I'm on board. Let's do it.
Here we go. Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share?
I love that you're doing this because I see young parents out doing all kinds of fun stuff. And I love to watch them with their kids when they're playing in the store and hanging out. And gosh, all the stuff on Pinterest right now out there for the holidays and stuff. I'm like, wow. There's a lot out there to think about. And you can take one little thing and just make it fun.
Yeah, you don't have to do all the things and get stressed about it. Just make it your own.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I love to think about you saying, hey, meet me at the stream, like taking our bike and going down there with friends.
My son and I spent one spring break. We went to the hatchery, the fish hatchery, and we just spent probably about 2 hours sitting it there. It's totally free. There were a bunch of geese out there. And so he made up a story about these geese and kept telling me the story and adding on to it. And I kept thinking, God, I wish I had something to write this down. So I tried to go home and write down as much of it as I could remember from what he said. And I found it. We never finished the story, though. We sat there for probably 2 hours watching geese run around and like interact with one another and just created a story. So I think that idea of playing and imagination and no rules about, well, they can't do that. Geese don't talk or, just letting kids go and use their imagination was wonderful. And I think that probably, if I said anything, like kids have fun and use their imagination. Yeah.
I feel like all the things you're talking about really have a lot to do with your theater background too.
Probably. But I think I was like that too, because we just didn't have a lot, like imagination.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah.
There was no Barbie house when I was little. We had to make our own Barbie house out of books. And, you kind of like took stuff from around the house and then you had to clean it all up before dinner, So I think all of those things just create that imagination for kids. And I think I wanted my son to have the same exact thing,
Well, that's really great. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm making sunshine for the journey. I'm making sunshine for the journey. I'm making sunshine for the journey. And I am making it right now. And then I watch the news and think, well, where do I even begin? And then I think again, if not me, who? And if not now, when? If not me, who? And if not now, when? So I'm gonna put one foot in front of the other, 1 foot. I'm gonna put 1 foot in front of the other, 1 foot. I'm gonna put 1 foot in front of the other, 1 foot. Yes, and I'll be on my way. Yes, I'll be on my way.
How you gonna make sunshine?
I'm going to open my mind.
Open my mind.
Do what makes me smile inside. Then I'll share my smile with you. And like a wave, it will reach others too. I'm gonna put 1 foot in front of the other, 1 foot. I'm gonna put 1 foot in front of the other, 1 foot. I'm gonna put 1 foot in front of the other, 1 foot. Yes, and I'll be on my way. Yes, I'll be on my way. And I'm making sunshine for the journey. I'm making sunshine for the journey. I'm making sunshine for the journey. And I am making it right now. Say that again. Yes, I am making it right now. One more time. Yes, I am making it right now.
Sunshine.
The Ready, Set, Go show is part of the Possibilities podcast platform.